What are the thoughts, feelings, and sensations, the parts? What are they arising in? What is the space? What is the essence of what's here that in IFS we call self, others call being, call isness, presence, awareness? What's your word for it right now? Or maybe what's your default flavor of beingness? It's spaciousness, openness, stillness, peace, love, flow, emptiness. What's your word? And then whatever your flavor is of this self, of this beingness right now. And you can notice the foreground, the thoughts that are coming up. Oh, it's a little cold here. Oh, gosh, I need to go get another cup of coffee. Or what am I doing later today? Or my back hurts in the foreground. Whatever your theater is, which is the theater can be there. It's just here. Theater of our parts. Then there's the beingness. And then for the next few minutes, our attention really is and our interest is on the beingness as background. What's it like to sink into that? To sink into the peace, the stillness, the emptiness, the love, whatever your word is. What's it like to sink in? And how do you know it's here? How do you know you're sinking into it? How do you what's it like in the body? Does something relax? We have like little expressions like Angie just had, like, oh. How do we know it's here? Is there the muscles relax? Does the breathing change? Can you feel the beingness? Can you feel it? Can you know it through sensations? And then let's just try on a few flavors together just for fun. If we were to know this as peace, we were to know this essence, this stuff, this beingness is peace. What's most like peace that's here now in you? What's most like peace? What's it like if we're not just aware of peace, we are peace? What's it like to be peace? What's it like to feel your hand as peace? And we'll try on a couple more. What's most like love? And you might have a different word for it. It might be nurture, it might be tenderness, it might be care, it might be compassion. What's most like love that's here now? Can we sink in? Can we relax into this love and let it have us? This tenderness, this nurture, this care. Are we aware of love? Or are we this love? Can we taste? Can we glimpse what it's like to be love? Could it really be the essence of what we are? I'd like to feel your body as this love, as this care. Is there a tingling? Let's do one more. What if it's just openness, relaxation, ease? What's most like openness, relaxation, or ease that's here now? it like to be this openness? Then from here, as we rest where we are, as we rest in and as the self, I'm going to gently bring the world in, our lives, our parts in. So are we stable in this moment, resting as this self, as this beingness in it, as it? See if you can find some stability resting here. And I'm just going to gently drop an idea. Let's just see what happens. Your life could be better. This is what happens. Does anything catch there? Does a part kind of agree? Of course, my life could be better. What responds? There's a little tension here. And if so, can you open to feel that tension? Feel the pull of the part that says, yes, of course, my life could be better. And then can you feel the self that's here? This that just is causeless okayness. It's just here in this peace and openness. See if you can feel the contrast between the part that says, my life could be better, and this beingness that just is fulfillment and okayness and peace. Is there a tension resting here? And then just to open up to polarities as we're aware of perhaps a voice that says my life could be better. Is there another part? Is there a response to that in your system? Another part that might say, oh, you're just causing problems. No, don't do that. Don't blend. Everything's okay. See if you can find a polarity or any kind of reaction inside. Maybe there's a tension here. And is it okay that that's there? Can there be, as we notice the beingness, can there just be an openness, a welcoming with what's playing, with the theater of you? Okay, then let's let all that go. Let's let all that go. Maybe the screen goes blank. We let all that go. We just fall back into the now, into the here, into the self, the peace, the presence. And let's kind of go with where Howard was pointing us. The world could be better. The world could be better. And and as I say that, if this is a little too much, I just invite you just to ignore the invitation, the words, and just rest with what's happening in your system. But if you want to play a little bit more with this, as we rest here in the now, and I say the world could be better, you have a part that comes up. It's like, duh, of course it could be better. And just notice that part. And maybe just we're hearing it a little bit, the part that comes up, maybe agreeing with the world could be better. And then can we also be aware of that from resting in this openness, this peace of self? See if you can feel the tension. The world could be better, the part that is agreeing, and it might be even like pulling you and wanting to blend with that. And feel the charge that it has. See if you can stay here. See if both can be here. The part and this you that has no problem, that's resting as this openness, this peace. And we're just gonna take it a little bit further. When you hear this part that says the world can be better, notice what reacts to that inside of you. What other parts come up? It's like, gosh, why did you say that, Sid? This is too much. And it just becomes really loud inside. Maybe a part that doesn't like it. Maybe a spiritual part that says, no, everything's perfect just as it is. Like what responds? What happens inside of you? What's the theater of you? What parts arise? And as they arise, and perhaps a polarity arises, the world should be better, could be better, and the other parts arise. Can we be aware of this? Are you aware of your inner theater? Can you zoom out, relax, step back, and be this place of openness, this place of awareness, this presence, this peace, as these parts are playing inside? In a way, as we're including the world, as we're opening to the world, I would keep going, but I feel like that's a lot. My system's even feeling exhausted right now from what we just did. I'm feeling some exhaustion. So why don't we gently find refuge as we open our eyes in the six of us who are here with you, that you're not alone, that this beingness that we're speaking of, it's not just your square. Sometimes they call it shared being, the shared self. See if you can find that, the gift of the six of us being here with you. Maybe even a sense of being held. There might be some parts that come up that are like, this was exhausting. I really didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. Can you feel the being held by us? And lastly, can you feel even the resonance inside of yourself, of the beingness amongst us, that we're here with you? And lastly, your parts that arose. I want to suggest that there was nothing special or different in your system from what we all have. And any of your parts that arose, I'm going to guessing we can all find a similar voice inside of us. And now let's have some fun, and we get to hear what it's like being you. What is it like being V and Howard and Eric and Sarah and Eli and Angie and Sid? What's it like? Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Yay!
Just noticing my reactions to the meditation or invitation, whatever we want to call it. I did notice that when you said, okay, I'm going to gently ask that we invite kind of the world back in. And I just definitely noticed, oh, Sid, please no. Please no. Could we not? Please, could we not? But like I really felt it, like the contrast of sitting in the place of openness and then like, oh, do we have to? Even like my world, my world, my stuff. So I noticed that the resistance to letting it back in. I noticed.
Angie, let me pause for just a minute, just because I'm guessing we can all relate to this, right? It's like, what do you mean? We get to have this special time with the seven of us. We get to kind of step away from some of those things in the world and just have this time together and rest and be peacefully inside and be with our parts. You want to include all the world? Oh gosh, no. Let's see how that plays for each of us. What's our version of what Angie's saying? We're hearing Angie's words. What's your version of it? What's your words? How does that relate inside of you? More, Angie, please.
Hmm. And then I noticed the polarity in me of my life could be better, but then my other voice of you should be more grateful for what you have. Like, so the part that says it could be better, the part that says you should just be more grateful, that polarity. And that I was able to kind of unblend a little bit, like it, and that felt like hopeful, that I could start to see and unblend a little bit from the part that says my life could be better. And I was excited about that because I think that's been churning in my mind a little bit, just that concept or awareness of a part that like is just maybe always wanting for me that I have the best life and is always kind of evaluating, are we having a good life? And I've become more aware of that. But then when you said the world could be better, I didn't know until
Let me pause for just a minute, Angie, because that last one. So as we hear Angie share her polarity of how this played in her, my life could be better. All right. And she's being with that. And she's like, that's very familiar. I have this part that's like wanting me to have a better life, a good life, a full life. Like we all can find that, right? Like right now, what's that? Just to notice that part inside of you. My life could be better, how that played. And then in Angie's system, the polarity played out as no, no, you should be grateful for what you have. No, you should be grateful for what you have. Can we find a flavor of that polarity in our system? Just like Angie's parts, like Angie's parts. In response, there was you should be grateful for what you have. If you can find that. And then this is the cool thing. What happens when we're aware of the polarity? Like we might go back like, no, my life could be better. I should be grateful for what I have. My life should be better. We can go back and forth. But then what happens when we're aware of the polarity, when we can see the two parts, when you can see the polarity itself? See if you can find that. And notice how you do it. Is there an image that works for your system? How are you aware of both of these at the same time? Are they planets in the galaxy? Are they like parts soaking in a hot tub? Are they actors on stage? How does your system become aware of these two? Or is it like a photo, right? If you have two images, if you have a polarity in the photo, you're not looking at the two images, you see the whole photo. How does your system become aware of these opposites, of this polarity as one? And then to notice, to whatever degree you can do this, you can see this. That wait a minute, something changes because Angie's describing, like I said, there was a little space that opened with unblending. Notice if you can see the polarity, the dynamic of the blending, I'm suggesting will change dramatically. If you can see the opposites at the same time, it becomes quite difficult to identify, to blend as one of them because you're seeing both. And in this game, this seems to be it's a really big deal for a lot of people. Just what Angie's leading us to here. And let me pause for just a minute before Angie goes to the world. Is there anything bubbling in our group? Anything bubbling that would like to be shared at this moment before Angie continues?
I'm just struck that I had almost identical thoughts, but mine were super duper quiet. Like they didn't even grab my attention. They just kind of flitted in and flitted out. But like Sid, as you kind of pause us and pull apart what Angie was saying, I'm going, oh yeah, that actually is exactly what came up for me. And it's just kind of surprising to me that way over there, wherever you're sitting, Angie, that yeah, that just surprises me. I'm just kind of like, huh, that's all. Just a little bit humored surprise. That's all. That's I'll just stop there for now.
Thank you. What about that? How do we make sense of that? Like, well, wherever Angie's sitting and then where Eric's sitting. Wait, but it played the same. It's very similar. What's that like? The sense of this. How do we make sense of that in our own system as we're with the six of us? Is there an intimacy, a connectedness, or is there something when we speak of connectedness from self, from being, this intrinsic, this causeless connectedness? Is there a connectedness that's not contingent on like time and space? It just is a connectedness, a sharedness. Jung spoke of these universal archetypes, this depth of this human experience that we all share. What's it like to see that, to see this connectedness, to feel this connectedness? What's it like as we open to that? Is there something nice in that for our parts that feel alone and separate, right? For the times we feel lonely and I'm not understood, I'm different, something needs to change in me. And then there's this that we're experiencing, that Eric's experience of Angie, this connectedness, this shared being, this, wait a minute, her part, I got the same thing inside of me. This is so weird. What's it like? Can that be like a really nice thing for your system as it feels more and more that sense of this causeless connectedness, something that it can rest in, that your parts can find a little refuge, a little peace in that, that perhaps they're not alone. Perhaps we're not alone. This one can be a really big deal for the sense of separation that comes in our system, the parts feeling alone, different. Anything else bubbling before Angie continues? How you doing, Angie?
I'm just kind of taking in like what Eric said, and yeah, yeah, how cool that is over here in my little part of the world to have that experience. It's pretty cool. Um, yeah, very cool. Because I do have a part that is like, oh, you are too deep. Like you just always want to go too deep and you're too complex. And it's like there's just too much. And kind of like sometimes it's like, oh, knowing about all these parts. Yeah, anyway, so it just felt like, oh, no, you're not. No, you're not. Yeah, and I know
Gotta
that's
ask.
a part. I know that's a part that is like thinks that, but it can feel that way sometimes when you don't have these conversations very often. Or yeah. Um,
Let me ask everybody this one. I love that. I'm too. Like, what's your version of that? We hear Angie's. I'm too complex, deep, too much. What comes after your two? I'm too. And which are the parts that are? If you see, like, I don't know how. Like for me, I see all my parts like they're in a field, and it's like, how are you aware of your inner world? Is it more like on a theater? The parts are, how are you aware of it? Or is it, I don't have images, I just feel them. Or Sarah, I mean, she can name 60, 70 of her parts. It's like, what's it like in your system as you're aware of your parts? And then what, if they were all just to yell out, I'm two, like what's the word that comes next in your system? And in the midst of that, as they feel this connectedness that Eric and Angie are pointing to, is there something nice in that as we're aware of their twos? Or maybe just in you, there's a sense of being interested in the ones that have I'm two, and it's just being welcomed. Those are being included. Are they being included? Are those being included too in our systems? Can we welcome our I'm two? Are they being welcomed? And I just want to pause for just one moment to bring it back to Howard's, the inside and the outside, because we're working mostly on the inside here with our parts. But if we can really, if we, as our capacity to include our parts opens, as our capacity opens for those parts that I'm to this, I'm to that, if we really can include those, then in the world, when we hear that from others, you're to this, you're to that. When we hear their shoulds, a really cool thing happens. The same gentleness that we've developed to open to our parts, the same love, the same sense of the innocence of our parts, it projects out there. And we end up hearing their twos, their shoulds, their criticisms the same way. You can't help it. It just happens. At least that's my experience with people. as I hear of this opening in their systems and their lives change. So that's back to you, Angie. Uh, you were saying then you anything else? And we were going to go to the world. You were about to go there, but what you got for us?
Um, I didn't know until now that I'm fully blended with that part. The world could be better. Like I'm just fully, completely blended with that. And I guess I wasn't aware that there could be any other perspective. So,
Wow. So what about that? In Angie's system, the part that's like, or the part or parts that the world could be better. It's not even kind of seen as a part. It's like, no, no, this is true. It's true. The world could be better. What about for each of us? What's our relationship with the aspects of us who believe that? What's our relationship? Can we be aware? Are we aware of it? Or is it just like, of course, are you an idiot? Of course the world look at the news. Look what's happening. Are you an idiot? Of course the world could be better. It should be better. It should be different. And I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that. There's a full embrace of those aspects of our humanity and a love of those aspects of our humanity. But can we see it as an aspect, an expression, an arising?
mm,
What else you got, Angie?
I'm just taking that in, Sid. Mm. That's what I got.
That's what you got. Well, thank you for taking us on such a deep dive. That it's kind of, and I'm curious for how this resonates in our systems, just like what Eric found. My guess is nothing Angie said is foreign to any of us. And just to notice if it is, notice how this plays as she's been kind of guiding and facilitating us in. Before we go to whoever's going to go next and share what this is like inside of you, anything bubbling, anything wanting to be shared. So I'm going to shake just a little bit because that was a whole lot going on that little Angie journey. Woo! And then at the same time that we're doing this, because you might have the spiritual achiever part, like, whoa, this is cool. Getting to see these parts, getting these discernments. I really like this. There's something that we're getting here. At the same time, can we find the place where where we're just kids after school playing outside? There's just here now. There's just the enjoyment of what is. There's nothing that needs to change. See if you can touch that too before we go to what's next. This can be kind of heavy. The sense that nothing needs to be learned, nothing needs to change, that we're just playing together. It's all just really, it's for the fun of the play. We're just playing, we're just here. And lastly, just Angie, I'm going to put you on the spot with the group for just a moment. As you look at Angie, or here, we'll do it to me. Now we'll do it to Angie and me. Can you see that? Can you see the beauty of what's here, just the way it is? That nothing needs to change. That when Angie says, but I'm kind of blended with that, I'm kind of identified with the world could be different. And I can find the same thing inside Sid. It's like, is there anything that should change here? Or can you see just the perfection of this humanity as it is? This is a big deal. Like the sense of nothing needs to change. Can we see the radiance in Angie just as she is, the perfection in her and in Sid, just as they are? Nothing. And the reason I'm putting out here, it's easier to look at other people in this than to do it in our own system. Um, nothing needs to change. And then, okay, I'm going to be mean now. And then there's your own square, your own mirror. Is it possible that nothing needs to change here? We're just playing after school, backyard, playing the innocence of the way life is moving in us, the innocence and beauty and how it's moving right now. Woo! All right, who's going to go next? Who's going to go next? What's it like being you? And if anybody's leaving on the hour, please go next because I don't want to
Yeah,
miss anybody. Yeah, Howard. Oh, yeah,
yeah.
Eli.
Unfortunately, I have a client in an hour. I mean, at 12 o'clock Eastern time. Um, or 11 o'clock Eastern time, excuse me. Um, okay. Yeah. I don't know if so Sid, is anybody that is on this screen now a part of non-dual IFS Facebook? Okay. Okay. Because yeah, I posted recently and so,
Oh,
and
That's why you look so familiar. Sorry.
yeah, I'm the one, I'm the guy. Okay, good. So, yeah, it's not my usual role. And if anybody's familiar with the Enneagram personality system, so I kind of identified with five, which is more the observer, insti investigator, kind of sit back, almost like philosophize. I chose to be a little bit to actually instigate a little bit, which is a different role. Because I think, yeah, the world can be better, but I think as IFS practitioners, as this, what I see as a really progressive community, as collectively, including me, that we could be better. Okay. What I mean by that is, looking at that's where the U-turn comes in, because I work with a lot of in
wait, Howard,
addictions.
can we pause for just a minute? Because that's a lot.
Sure.
I mean, just
That's
so
a lot.
we don't want to
Okay.
miss this.
Okay.
We could be better. We could be better as a community. Okay, we can all find that, right? Can you all find a part that agrees with that? We could be better. We could be better, whatever your community is. If it's the IFS community, what
Mm.
we could be better, whatever the we is. And then, as you are aware of that thought, that part, can we also find this other place, the self that just welcomes what is? See if we can notice both of these. We could be better, and this that just is. This perfection of Angie, this beauty, this innocence of what we are, just the way we are. See if you can find both of those. And tell us more, Howard.
Yeah. So what I mean by that for me is, you know, identifying mostly on the more, progressive side as say, a liberal Democrat and all that stuff in America and easy to see the extremes on, say, on the right, and you can see how dark that could be, and even mean-spirited in time and prejudice and all that stuff, and how easy it is, including me, to be able to kind of look at, say, my neighbor who's a Republican and attribute and project all kinds of qualities. Oh, he must be racist himself. He must be, misogynist, all the things that we kind of see, maybe like we can project onto Donald Trump, well, but he actually says these things, right? So, you know, like, are we willing to take a look at our own inner Donald Trump or our own inner MAGA, and then, you know, connect that way and not, and learn, be open to kind of hearing that, yeah.
That's quite an
Are we,
invitation.
I know. It is. And then I have to go in 10 minutes, right? But it's just maybe launching that out. So,
Okay, well, let's be with that for a moment. And then I also want to, because I think we've got two other people leaving, just to be able to hear a little bit from them as well. But there's a lot in Howard just said.
yeah.
The idea of, what is it? Because we're hearing in his system what Donald Trump represents. That's in Howard's system. And when he talks about the extremes of the right,
Hmm.
in the sense of darkness, and two things, just to notice our parts that are extreme. I think was it Eli who was talking about the extreme polarities, the extreme parts inside of us. And it's like, what are our extreme parts? Do we have a neighbor that we have extreme feelings about, like, that might have opposite perspectives of us? And then can we find the opposites of this? Like, we can hear this position about the darkness of the extreme right that Howard's speaking of, okay, that perspective. And what about Howard's neighbor who might have the exact opposite? Oh, this crazy liberal I live next to, like the world he'd want to make. Gosh, I don't even want to be part of that. I'm moving to, I don't know where he'd move. I'm moving to England. You know, I'm getting out of here, or I don't know where conservatives going to move. But it's like, but it's like I'm moving. It's like, can we find that? And this is a stretch, right? This is a polarity, just like Angie's polarity. The world could be better. No, you should be grateful for what is. Can we find the polarity of the extreme right is dangerous? It's scary. It's dark. Can we find the opposite? No, it's the left that's really going to cause problems. And see if you really can find this. It's the left. You can even go to, like, what's the extreme left? The extreme left. The extreme liberals. If the extreme liberals had power, what would the world look like? What would the United States look like? See if you can find that polarity. And can you be aware of both of these poles? Extreme right is dangerous and dark. No, the extreme left is the real problem. If they had control, oh my God, the world we live in. See if we can find both of those and see if we can be aware from this place of okayness of this polarity. If we can include both, does your system have the capacity at this moment? And it might not. Mine often doesn't, to be able to hold both of these two extremes. What's it like? Is it painful to try to hold those two? And then notice the compassion that opens for perhaps the entire political spectrum. If we can hold these two extreme opposites, see if you can do that. The compassion that opens for all the perspectives. Because it doesn't go into polarity. Then if we can be aware of the polarity, there's a sense of welcoming. Gosh, I wish we had, maybe we'll spend more time on this. I wish, Howard, I'm sorry you're leaving us. This is such a stretch for many of us, including me. It really stretches my system. Include these opposites, extreme right and the extreme left. Can we open to them as polarities? Howard, because I think Eli and Sarah are also leaving on the hour. I'd love to hear from them, maybe what's coming up for them on this and how they're doing. Thank you, Howard. Eli, what's going on?
Yeah, I do have to go in a couple of minutes. But I was gonna say, yeah, Howard, thank you for sharing that post. It's definitely, that's where I was like, I know him. I was like, this was a brave post, and I thought about reaching out actually. But I think for me, like, there's a cluster of parts that come up. One, like there's a justifier or trying to make sense of that tries to make sense and says who's right, who's wrong. Let's look at facts and this and that, and like let's try to decide. Like let's try to if we can only establish a clear, like with more facts than or like with more, that it's trying to like rationalize, right? And just trying to make sense of everything that's going on. I think there's another part that's, I guess, more like a peacemaker that's like, oh, no one needs to be right or wrong, or more right or more wrong, but like if we could just understand each other, if there could be a conversation and dialogue, then actually it wouldn't be like that we have to vilify something and the other. And then I feel like there's obviously strong preferences internally, myself, and then that even becomes like, and then there's another part that says like even strong preferences in one side or another makes it so that you don't fit in one circle or another, makes it like jeopardizes your belonging, especially I'll say particularly for myself, where people in my life exist on all extremes, not by my choice. And so uh and so expressing any sort of preference uh would immediately ostracize me from a side, and that is complicated. So there's a handful of things that come up there. And then like the
Wow.
desire of think like from like Howard's post, and similarly, like I've been similarly oriented as like, oh, can there be a conversation? Would it be possible for people to understand? And maybe when you break down, I mean, and just doing IFS work myself and being here and stuff, it's like maybe when you drop and distill down, the X person is not actually evil. They're angry, they feel threatened, and they feel unsafe. And we distill that down. It's like nobody's the villain. It just very much they're playing the villain. And it's just like that. It's an innocent desire that's like, why can't we get along, or why can't we have that conversation, or that? But it also just feels so far fetched, and so unreasonable.
Awesome. Awesome. So we just heard a whole lot of perspectives there. I mean, so much life in like a minute and a half from Eli. And you might notice parts in you that are making sense of this, like, oh, I agree with that. What a great point. Or gosh, I wish I had thought that. Or like that would be so useful. That's so we have parts that are responding, but I'm going to invite us to kind of step back for a moment. As we heard these different perspectives in Eli, can all of them be welcomed? Do we have the capacity to include all of these what ifs that we just heard from Eli? Like we could see the theater. We're watching the play, the inner world of Eli, with all of these parts, the sense of one that wants to make sense of everything. Another what, but if we just understood this peacemaker, but wait a minute, there's a strong preference. Eli has his perspectives from his experience, his idea of what would be the most just, the best common good. And then there's a carefulness. Well, but if I say any of this, it's going to jeopardize my relation, my belonging to one or the other group, to one of these groups. I got to be careful. What can I say? What's safe to say? I'm going to be ostracized if I say this. And then there's another part, but there's got to be a way to have a conversation, just like what Howard was doing with his courage and bringing this up. There's got to be a way of having a conversation. And then another part, wait, but even the extreme opposites, they're not evil. They're not. I don't really believe they're evil. They're innocent. They want to be safe. They're not really villains. What about all of that? All of those perspectives. And how do you do that in your system? How do you open up to that? To what is it, like a theater, and there are all these little voices? It's a theater. How do you really to include all of what Eli just said? I got to be safe. I can't really speak this. I'll be ostracized. I'll lose the sense of belonging, and might lose it with some people who are dear to me, might even family members. At the same time, there must be a way of having a conversation. They're not. No one's evil. They're just innocent. But wait a minute. But perhaps at the same time, those are horrible things they're saying. But personally, I don't like that. That's not what goodness is. How do we hold all of that? Anything, Eli? Oops, have to go. Howard, go and give us a final word, Howard. What's your response to Eli? Oops, can't hear you.
No, thank you so much. I'm so glad that somebody came on that saw that post and was inspired. And yeah, I appreciate it. And I'm gonna display some more courage, but I want to find some wisdom first before I make my next posting.
Cool.
So,
Thanks.
okay. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you,
thank you.
Howard. Great
Thanks
being
for
with
being
you.
here, Howard.
Thank you. See you all later. Another time. Bye-bye.
Eli, what's it
Yeah.
like to
So,
share all of that? What's happening?
um, I mean, even in sharing it, there's a cautiousness, um, of how different things will be received. And because these topics feel so. I mean, I guess it's my own projection. It's because it feels so charged. but also it appears so charged in the world. So it feels like everything is so touch and go. And then I think to the point of like your question of how to hold all of it, it's like I don't know. Like it's like I guess in this moment there's a tentative holding, but I know immediately one of these is gonna come on about like, okay, we need to solve it, or we need to understand it, or we need to decide, or we need to do this, or we need to do that, or we need to, and it's really, really hard to just stay with it.
And is it possible that all that you shared, these different perspectives, that we enjoyed it? The sense that there was an enjoyment of all of these. Like, well, but I've got my opinion, but I'm going to be ostracized, but there's got to be a way to converse, and all of those different perspectives as we with you tried to open to it, that wow, like there was really an enjoyment of Eli. And I'm also guessing as we opened to you that there was a sense of, wow, there's nothing that Eli shared there that I don't know, that isn't familiar in my system. I can relate to every single part that he shared. Just the sense of being seen, Eli, the sense of the vulnerability of what you just shared. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for everyone for being here. Appreciate it. Hope to see you soon.
Oh, thank you, Eli.
Take care.
It's just the three of us.
Zoop.
Woo! How you guys doing? V, we haven't gotten to hear much from you. What's it like hearing everybody? That was so much has been shared.
It's amazing journey I was going through. Thank you, Sid. This is truly a non-dual community that I'm being part of it, and I'm just so grateful, and also welcoming all the internal world parts. You know, my perfectionist part, and my ashamed part. They've been in war. I felt the presence and awareness of my physical somatic parts, like in when we're going through the journey. My throat was just kind of choking. The parts that I wanted to express, but you know, I have a teacher, a spiritual teacher, and you know, sometimes my internal world I have a war. But it started with when you doing the meditation from a personal responsibility part, to not wanting to take responsibility, the polarized part, the personal responsibility, want to take responsibility about other people's safety, and you know, want to feel safe. And the other part is wanting to say, I can't drive 5 people, because this crash also triggered me. My personal, I was rear-ended, and I made a commitment. You know, I can give a ride, but then there was 4 other people. That brought up, I can't drive. You know, I'm not good enough driver. But I've been, you know, driving across the border to Seattle. I did that by myself. First time I took my husband with me then, but this came up for me again. Micro level, you know.
Yeah. Let me check in. Let me check in, V, because there's just all of this. I don't want to miss it. These parts that are rising, these perspectives, as we're being with you, as Angie and I are being with you. The sense of the contraction in the throat. The sense of the driving, the responsibility, the part that's like, I'm not sure we can do this. I'm not sure it's safe. I'm not sure I can do this. The other part about responsibility. This one that is kind of welcoming everything. All this that's arising, all these parts that are arising. Can we simultaneously be aware of this that's kind of untouched by it? Sometimes they call it the imperturbable being, Dick Schwartz will describe it as this that can't be diminished or can't be enhanced. It just is. What's your word for that? What's your word or flavor of it, of that, V?
Confidence.
Confidence.
Also, there's sadness coming up too. Especially when said that, the world could be a better place. Brought a lot of grief.
But isn't that interesting to notice when the part has a sense of the world can be a better place, then how the system feels, the sensations that accompany those parts, those voices. Right? It's almost like a symphony when certain instruments are played, like we can feel them inside. When this instrument of the world could be a better place is playing, gosh, this is filled with sadness. There's sadness here, there's grief. Can that be interesting, the way your instrument, your system plays? And then, can we also be aware of this that is untouched? Even by the world could be a better place, even by turning on the news and seeing children suffering, right? Even in the midst of that, can we find this that is okay here? Can you find, and how do you find that, V? How do you find this that we call the self, this being? This is it like the background that you have to sink in. How do you find it?
The tears have a different flavor. I'm finding there is peace in it too. Although the sadness kicked in, this crash, the uncertainty of life, it brought sadness, but also strength and courage and understanding of the
So how
uncertainty
about
of the world.
so how about that? How about that? The sense of this, the crash that you had, the sense of I'm not sure this is safe for me to be driving, the uncertainty, the fear that comes up there, the uncertainty of life that's here. But then at the same time, you heard it, but there's some peace in that, Sid. Even in the sadness, even in the uncertainty, I find that there's some peace here. What about the both and? This is a lot that you're pointing us to here, because it's like I love how the fullness of life comes through you, and the emotions, the sadness, the grief, and even tears come. I love the fullness of that, all of it, everything that you shared, all of those parts, everything. And then the both and the fullness of welcome, including, embracing, celebrating all of that. And then that there's also, wait, and even in the midst of that, there's some peace. There's peace here. I can find some peace. What's that like? What's it like, having both of these here, V?
The awareness, the witnessing to all that and still having that peace within. I can hold the space for those parts. Even when my family, my son sides with Trump, I can hold the space for him.
Yeah. So being the space, this that you say, holding the space, I'm going to suggest that there's also a space here that doesn't have to be held. There's this awareness, this presence. Even when your son is saying, Trump, he's the guy, and you have parts in you like, oh my God, how could my son say this, right? In response. We're just playing with polarities here. It's all the same. That there's something that is just welcoming it all and loves it all, and just adores the innocence and sweetness of your son, even when he's saying something that might be polar opposite to what you believe. There's something here that just loves and adores him just the way he is. Like, how does the system make sense of that? And I might be
It's a
wrong, but that's my guess from my experience with
it's
you.
a resistant. There's a resistant. He's my son, and he can talk about him comfortably, and I react. My parts react, and we have these philosophical values discussion. We're able to do it a little bit, but the other day I said, I'm not signing these papers for you. You're just my parts just were reacting, projecting my own insecurities.
Beautiful. And just to highlight what you just said, literally, you said, I react, and you also said my parts react. It's a big difference.
Oh,
It's one of the, it's just the gifts of that. Sometimes we have space and sometimes we don't, just like with Angie saying, no, the world could be different. That's what I believe. That's me. That's it. That's what's here. And then sometimes we could see it as parts. Well, my parts react, as you say, and sometimes it's I react. And just to notice the difference inside. What's the difference when we between saying this those two different ways?
it separates. It's almost parts separates from me. They're not blended, although when I reacted, they were very blended. It just came out now, my parts. It came out. I haven't read books on non-duality or anything fairly new, although our spiritual teacher tells us gotta be non-dual, but how? But I'm seeing duality in you, teacher.
Uh, I think Angie and I are learning non-duality from your being, from the love that's there, from the peace that's there in the midst of this. I think who needs books? We've got thee.
Sometimes feel so, I think I'm joining this such amazing community. You don't know anything. There's part of me that would say that, but I said, that part's because that part's being accepted because I don't know anything. Um, it feels safe to share my parts where I cannot do that with my teacher. My parts are so scared of him, but I get so much of it from him. My spiritual practice, the meditation part, I love it. But when this is, you gotta have fear and love for both of from God, right? I'm thinking, how could that have that? Shouldn't that be just love? I can't learn anything, right? But I'm learning. But God gave me um, this platform where I can understand my parts
Beautiful.
and my teacher's
Beautiful.
parts too, and have empathy for that.
Yeah, and notice you might have parts that prefer, oh, it's nicer when it's gentle like this. But then can we also find the parts that, whoa, what a gift of having a teacher that's just this. No, you're just going to be this. We're not going to even indulge the parts. We're just going to be the truth of who you are. It's like to be able to enjoy it all. Let me check with Angie because you've shared so much rich gold here, V, and I'm wondering what it's like for Angie to hear all this.
I'm just really appreciating you, V. Um, I definitely relate to the I I am so new to this whole non-dual idea. I'm and yet I'm just kind of watching you right now. And what it feels like I'm witnessing is you going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, like touching what Sid is inviting, the openness, the okayness as and touching it, and then noticing like your parts, like this is my son, and how and just and it's that's it's so I feel like I'm witnessing that in you. Like this is what it is, right? And not even knowing the specifics of your story, but yet being a mother and having my own struggles around some things with my daughter and just yeah, the struggle. So I'm just really appreciating you and your willingness. It's a willingness, right? Like I feel your willingness to sit here with it.
Thank you.
Mm. That that like for our parts, for our systems, when there's a sense of being enjoyed, your willingness, the vulnerability. God, the way Angie and I are enjoying these expressions of all of these expressions of all of them, all of these parts are just being welcomed and enjoyed and appreciated just as they are. Even ones that say, no, that's not okay. What's that like? And I'm going to, just for all of us, because that's part of the game. This is when we're kind of subtly or sneakily going really deep in this. And it's just that it's, and it seems it's so simple, but the sense really of celebrating all of our parts just the way they are, like a birthday party for our system, for our parts. And if I'm doing something, if there's like an agenda here, it might be that. It's like me to play with that, the welcoming and really enjoying all of our parts, just how Angie was enjoying you, V, and I'm enjoying you. Because what happens? What happens? This is a little shortcut with this whole non-dual thing. What happens if we truly enjoy everything that arises in us? If we truly can enjoy and welcome all of these arisings in us, there's not resistance anymore. The Buddhists say that suffering is just from resistance. And it's that word, resistance, that's key for them. What if we truly could enjoy all of these, all of our inner theater just the way it is? That's all I got. How are we doing? What's anything bubbling, V? Maybe we'll move
You
towards
know,
closure together.
I find
There's so much. Yeah.
just I want to be able to hold a space for people, especially the people in my life. When they have a different parts that are, when my parts get triggered and their parts have different values. I wanted to have understanding. My sister wants to hold the space for all.
Yes.
I don't want to objectify because he's my son. He's not just my son. There's a whole society, the whole world, the divine power
Right.
within.
Ooh. Ooh, the whole world. Can we hear the way we're doing the inside and out together with like what V just said, where she's saying, I'd like to be able to hold a place for these people, for the whole world, for I'd like to be able to hold a space for all of these, for my son.
But I'm not
Almost.
individually responsible for collective effort. I can't do it.
But this is where I'm suggesting this is the edge we're playing with here as we welcome and celebrate our own parts. It just it seems to be inside out. And then suddenly then wow, we get surprised by what Angie was saying. Don't bring the world in. I don't want that. But suddenly the world is included as we've included our own parts and we've really welcomed them. There's like if we finally don't exclude anything that's inside of us, it just happens. And then like, well, the whole world is here and it's just included. How are we doing? Anything bubbling? Good. Angie, how you doing with all of this?
I'm doing great. I'm just noticing I have a lot of curiosity kind of for what you were just saying, V, about how yeah, there was something that you're wanting to do, kind of like let your son be kind of you're trying to see him in a bigger, different, like you said, the whole world. It reminded me of something. It reminded me of a song I don't know if you've ever heard this song about, I think it's from a poem, and I don't know where the poem's from, but it reminded me of this poem song about your children are not your children. They are the sons and the daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but they're not from you. And though they are with you, they belong not to you. And that poem has really come to me a lot with some of the struggles I've been having. But I don't know if that means anything to you, but it
Yes, my spiritual scripture says exactly the same thing. You know, I mean, they come through us
yeah,
based on our previous karmas, right? Yeah. It
yeah,
just because the attachment we, with them, the emotional attachment, right? And not allowing their experience. He's a great father, great son. It just when it comes to this the worldly discussion, he's a businessman and
yeah.
and
Hmm.
I was a social worker, and he's also a counselor too. Uh, so it's beautiful discussions that we have, and sometimes just need to bring myself energy in the presence. Not sometimes, most of the time, but as a mother, my parts come up.
Yeah.
I've got a question, Angie, as you shared the words with that song to us. What does it take you? What does it represent to you?
Hmm. I don't know exactly. Like I think
Eh,
that's what poems and songs do, is they kind of take us to a place that is beyond our current words. Um, but I it's but yeah, it kind of takes me, maybe it's the responsibility or kind of that emotional attachment. And I feel like that poem kind of helps me step back from that emotional attachment, that responsibility of
mm,
that kind of, it's beyond the things that are beyond my control.
mm.
Um,
Does the step back give you, does it give you a little unblendedness, like well, these sons and daughters of ours are the sons and daughters of life? Does it invite in some of the beingness, some of the space?
mhm.
That's what it does here in my system, as I heard you
Mm,
say that.
yes. Yeah, it's um can I share I was sad when some of the others left because I had parts that wanted to respond to what they said, and it was like it's okay, that can still be here.
Yeah,
Um
what's going on inside of you? It's so much we've been exploring together.
um the um the guy that left last,
Eli,
Eli.
who spoke. Yes.
Eli. I felt like he was pointing at like belonging, how we knowingly or unknowingly, I think, are finding or searching for belonging in our beliefs and values and politics. And I just felt like he was really speaking to when we are trying to step out of that polarity, it does feel like a space of where do I, where do I belong? I just,
So let's play with that word belonging for a minute. It's almost like in IFS we have this word connection, and there's connectedness, and there are two flavors of it. There's a lowercase c connectedness and an uppercase C. There's a lowercase of, like right now, the three of us are feeling there's a connectedness here that we're enjoying from our experience. When V shares, it's like, oh my gosh, the connectedness that's experienced here. That's the lowercase. It's kind of a one that is contingent on experience. But then we play with this uppercase connectedness, this that is causelessly here. It's kind of like a flock of birds that can fly together. There's just this knowing, this connectedness. And so I find the same thing with the word belonging. There's a belonging that comes and goes, and then there's this other belonging. And there's the belonging that the lowercase b belonging that could be conditional on, well, if I don't agree with these people, or if I really shared my perspective, there's no way. They'd be like, what the hell are you doing here? Get out of here. Uh, but then there's this other place of belonging. So how does that play in your system, Angie?
I'm kind of like, boo. I'm like scribbling, like taking notes because that I don't think yeah. And also trying to stay out of my head. I'm curious about that. And I think it fits what I the other the other guy that had to go see a client, Howard.
Howard, yes,
Um
yes.
um yeah, what I wanted to say to him was that I have tried to sit with the same thing about my own inner, Donald Trump or whatever. Um Realizing that like, oh, I'm attached to being a liberal. I wear it like it's a thing of pride and feel righteous in it. And it gives me belonging.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I bring to the polarization if I am sitting in that place of that I'm anyway. But so that but what your words help is like that's my lower C connection, that I
Mm-hmm.
get connection with other people that identify as liberals.
And isn't it yummy? Isn't it so yummy to be? I don't know if you were out on the streets on Saturday with the No Kings and to feel that connectedness, that part of, or the way we feel it with our family, but the politics can be really rich in that to feel part of community connectedness. And it's like I just don't want to diminish the lower C connectedness, this belonging that comes. It's a rich human experience.
Yes, yes, it's very rich. And if I believe that I'm right in
Mm-hmm.
that, like then it becomes, that I'm right and you're wrong.
But it's just a part. But it's just a part.
But it's a part,
It's just a part that has that belief, right? That gets to
right?
feel the affinity. The system gets to feel the affinity. But there's this other place.
Yeah. And so the other place, like I need other people like this that are trying to find that other place, step back from the polarity because I'm kind of so drawn to that belonging or that
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I felt
Okay.
like he was kind of pointing at that. Eli
Mm-hmm.
was speaking to that
Yeah. So,
difficulty.
so how about that? We've just got a few minutes left, but the sense of I'm so drawn to that belonging. Can we? Because often, there's often in our system, in my system, there's a wound again. There's a sense of separation that there's a sense of whoa, this feels so good, this connectedness, belonging, this intimacy, being part of this deep connected, and it's like often there's, and this is the IFS, this is the psychology side of it all, that there's that kind of a wounded aspect of us. Perhaps this, in they call it the fall in Christianity, the separation. It's like, whoa, I get to experience. And why do we love the honeymoon phase in relationships, right? Falling in love, it's the same thing. We get beyond the sense of separation, and so it's really yummy. This longing for that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And like, why do people do spirituality? Why do we do spirituality, right? This capital C, the capital B belonging, because we can find that same yumminess, same flavor of yumminess, but that isn't conditioned on experience. It can, this is what they say, that it's intrinsic, this belonging, like being like the flock of birds, being connected. And so that's some of what we're playing with, exploring here. How you doing with all of that, Angie?
Good, good. Putting words to like the stuff that rolls around up there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the nice thing. Oh, V's got something. What you got, V?
The word for me, inclusivity, belonging is very important to as human being, whether family or groups. Realization we're fighting for the same thing. It seems like polarities. I guess it's about values too, where we want to belong. You know what I value, but at the same time, I want to be inclusive. Including Trump's administration. I want to be, but am I there? No. So, my parts are saying, or my system saying, can't we just belong where we belong based on our values? But then there's a war between even families.
So perfect. This is the both. This is the both. This is the both the kind of maybe disappointment or frustration with your son. Like, how can he have these political views and at the same time the absolute unconditional love that you have for him and the dearness, endearment that you have with him? The both. And so there can be the belonging, the lowercase b, and then there can be this other one, but just like the love that you have for your son. And I want to suggest that this is what there are lots of balls in the air that we're really playing with here in this group. And the idea that as we're playing together, that it's not something that we have to do to get more to this flock of birds, connectedness and belonging, that it's just something that's already here and that we're just we're just tasting it together as we play. We're letting it take, and we're letting it just kind of notice, because it's already here. It's already the very nature of what we are. It's here, and we're just becoming more aware of it as we're playing together. So I'm guessing there might be some achiever parts that come up. Oh, wow, that's better. We should get more of that. And it's like, nah, we're just playing together, and my experience is it works as we play together and welcoming our parts and celebrating them and getting a sense of these different flavors of what's here. It just seems to work. We only got 1 minute left. Final thoughts, Angie and V. Anything?
Releasing control and being with me and myself.
Nice.
It's just a thank you, gratitude. Gratitude.
Yeah. Oh, we talked about gratitude, that polarity thing of yours, gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't need to be more grateful. Gratitude is here.
Oh my.
Gratitude is here.
Gosh. I have something, and I have a word. Fun. This was just fun today. I just had fun with you guys. Thanks for playing. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sid.
Thank you.
Thank you so
later.
much.